Good afternoon, everybody, from a very sunny Aberdeen. My name is Gary Roberts, and I'm here with Shona this afternoon. Hello, Shona.
Hello, Gary.
We've been practicing that, obviously. And we're just coming to you this afternoon to tell you the work that's going on in Aberdeen, practice that we've both been involved in over the years, and a little bit of the theory and some of the models that we may use, and the principles behind the work that we actually do. And I thought I would just start off, this might bore the people in Moray, from Moray, but I'm a student myself. I'm doing my PhD, and my main aim is to look at providing a theoretical model to family learning, looking at in terms of the current practice and the relationship between policy and the people who make that policy, the politicians, the people who administrate it, like Education Scotland, both regional and local councils, workers and parents, and I'm trying to find a model that will help practitioners work like we have done, or in the same vein, on the same principles and values over the last sort of 10 years. Okay, to start with, the practice in Aberdeen when I came up in year 2000, the aim was, it was part of the early intervention project that was going on in the city at the time. It was to raise children's literacy attainment, literacy and numeracy, and we have 4 schools working with 4 homeschool teachers, and we set up groups within the schools, and we set up pilot projects, everything. Shona will tell you a little bit more about what we actually did do to sort of convince schools that it was a good thing to do to get involved in. But we were involved in policies as well, like I say, the early intervention policy, but also the new community schools and the community schools where we worked collaboratively with others. We looked at the work. We actually, I don't know if this is getting taped and recorded and everything, so we have to be careful what we're saying, Shona. But we actually got the money through early intervention, but we actually used it in a different way. It was we were told, we were sort of informed that we were to deal with the parents who couldn't actually help their children learn to read and write. So we took on that mantle, but worked it from a different angle. More of a wealth model, which we'll go into a little bit later. But in terms of the underlying principles that myself and Shona worked with, it was so closely related to CLD as values and principles, where we're talking about self-determination, empowerment, working collaboratively with others, and the promotion of lifelong learning. And in order to do that, we also kind of linked into the other CLD values of active citizenship, inclusion and lifelong learning. Our approaches to, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, the approaches to learning were around this wealth model, not a deficit model. There was many times me and Shona got told to go and deal with these families who couldn't help their children do their homework, or were maybe not as clever as they should have been, although ironically they'd actually been at that school, and the head teacher would quite confidently say that they'd actually taught the parent, and yet they couldn't cope with what they were sending with them home, but they couldn't see the irony in what they were actually saying. But we worked with a wealth model, which was basically around what's termed today is a sort of social literacy approach to how people learn to read and write in our society. And we looked at some of the reading that you will have been doing or are about to do as part of this module through Elsa Roberts-Harbach, Shirley Bryce-Heath. I was hearing that Shirley Bryce-Heath was actually over here in the university down in London speaking about her new book, which is looking at the autobiographical. We were talking about Brookfield last week at the session, and she is looking at the longitudinal autobiographical family life and how literacy and numeracy are affected by everyday literacy practices. We also relied quite a lot on the domains, the domains that Barton, Hamilton and Evernich and Brian Street wrote about early in late 90s, early 90s, around the domains, the community, the work and the school, and so the inverse kind of, the reverse kind of psychology of that, when parents are actually doing a lot more of the learning with their parents. Throughout the time that they were the children, as opposed to the time they're actually spent in the school. And what we tried to do was actually build on what parents already knew, i.e. the wealth model. And we always started, we never started, of course, although we had a set of materials, we like the toolkits we were looking at last week, we never actually did that. It was about what parents brought to the group, and we would work with that in a sort of constructivist approach. And it was very much based on what Jefferson Smith would say is a sort of informal way of learning, rather than a formal or a non-formal. And it was looking at how we could speak or talk to the parents and find out what they had. It was through what Jefferson Smith would call dialogue, and we would work in order to identify the need that the parents had, and we would create a curriculum with them, and that's how we've basically worked. Well, I haven't done it for a few years, but Shona will go on to tell you what she's done recently. But we put a lot of work into building the curriculum around what the parents actually needed to know or wanted to know, and we would use parents and peer-to-peer to support in order, if they had that skill, they would pass that on to the other parents in the group. So really, that's kind of that's the way we come from. That was our sort of basis for what we did, all the work that we ever did, and what we kind of fought for. Okay, we took the money and we worked in the sort of grey areas, if you like, but that's how we formed a lot of good practice. And I'm going to hand over to Shona now, just to talk a little bit about the practice, and I'll chip in whenever I feel the need. Okay, over to you, Shona.
Thank you, Gary. Okay, right, folks. Looking forward to start. Gary's sort of said it all. Well, really, you have. What I would say is things are really taking off here in Aberdeen. It's taken 12 years, but I think certainly in the last 5, we have developed more and more programmes for parents, and as Gary said earlier, it is because they've asked for it, or they've suggested us how they would like help or support. What we've done is, okay, you asked for it, well, we'll give you it. We'll do what it says on the tin. Again, it's the Welsh model. We're trying to build up their skills for where they're at. Better Watch Us is getting recorded. In my opinion, okay, maybe that's not a good start. In my opinion, maybe some of the families that are more vulnerable families that we get told by other people, e.g. head teachers, go and fix those parents. That's an attitude. One, that's no good. Parents tend to say, you try to say I'm a bad parent, and stick your programme where the sun don't shine. Okay, that's a very nice way of putting it, and it's not the way the parents did. But anyway, so we took that on board, and that is how we've landed. I've seen a couple of bags of stuff doing here. I'll let you go down here. I will show you it later. But I think it's really policy-wise, certainly in Aberdeen. I can speak for Aberdeen. Family learning is definitely, you'd think after 12 years it should be taken off, but I think there's definitely you're getting backed. There's not just family learning, we've got PEEP, we've got other agencies that do family learning type approaches to work, and I think it's really positive. We've recently also just gotten money from the Early Years Change Fund. This time, Gary, we want to get to spend it as we please. That better not be recorded either, I suppose. But no, we will be sticking to the 0 to 3s because we've gotten some money to support that. And there's other agencies, so there'll be a lot of collaboration and partnership. I would like to say we've always worked in partnership with people. Many a time we've put all the effort in, and everybody says they'd like to sign up as your partner, and then basically they do a D nothing. I think why we work is we try to make sure that partnerships work together, but ultimately we get parents coming along saying they're wanting to come back to things. They want to do the whole range of what I would like to call formal informality. If I show you what I mean, sorry, I'll have to go into my bag. Gary, can you keep everything going?
Okay, I think we've got...
Sorry, that's it. That's it. Go.
That's it. All right, okay. I think I may have gone a little bit quick at the beginning in not explaining the theorists. I went too quickly with the theorists. What I was talking about there was the reading that you're actually doing as part of the module, the Elsa Roberts Auerbach social contextual approach towards family learning, where she in America researched with families of, I think they were Latino or Mexican kind of language. So it's like an EFiL type research that she did, but she found that's where a lot of the literacy practices and numeracy practices were happening every day, and she recorded them a long while ago, in 1987, I think, down there, and that's what sort of set us off, and it set it off from where I started off initially, which is in Edinburgh, in the original sort of Pilton project, family learning project down there, and that's where we took that from, and it combined with the other work that was getting done down in Lancaster University with David Barton, Mary Hamilton and Ros Ivanich, and it was around the worlds of literacy is the book, the name of the book, 1994, where he talks about, and where they talk about domains of literacy in terms of school, work. I think I've called it home and community, but I think it relates to the home and the community. And it's they sent students out into Lancaster taking photographs with digital, throwaway cameras at the time, and recorded lots of literacy events and practices that were going on. They'd taken their literacy and events description from Shirley Bryce Heath, who, again in America, looked at families learning within their communities and their homes, and she had identified these events and practices, and it's the stuff that you did last week as part of the modules, but that was all built on in order to help us have a theory behind what we were actually doing. And I think I mentioned Brian Street, and he did stuff down in London, but around the same thing, around literacies, and he talked a little bit more around the power and the knowledge, which I know I spoke about with the Mori group last week, about how who determines what it is that we read and don't read, or how we learn to read and what we don't. I think we talked about hidden curriculums and curriculums, sort of factual curriculums that we see in the school. And it's not to have a go at teachers, etc., but it's just to say that that's what we're basing a lot of our work on. And I know that the adult literacies framework is based around a lot of this similar kind of theoretical perspective. So if you missed that, that's how I was meaning to talk about. In terms of informal and non-formal and formal learning, I was referring to Jeffson Smith, who wrote about describing the differences between formal learning, which is more education, school, university, CPD, it's got qualifications next to it, other than non-formal, which is related to the sort of 6-7 week course that Shona's talking about in terms of helping the parents with their literacy or reading or English language or whatever to do with their children. It's that kind of, adult ed does a lot of that at the moment, and it's about sort of 6 week programs, etc. But with or without enough, it doesn't usually have an SQA or a qualification to it. It normally has a certificate or anything, or a celebration at the end. The informal is what I was trying to stress. That's why I kind of brought it up. It was because that's how myself and Shona have worked with the parents, and it's that emphasis on the dialogue of working with them, talking to them. I mentioned in Murray about the minibus when you're driving along. I've made many a curriculum up 6 weeks, 10-week curriculum based on what parents have been talking about, and it's that dialogue that Jeffson Smith mentioned as being really important. I mean, they talk about in terms of youth work, which maybe the youth workers out there will recognise well, but it's a very strong underlying kind of strategy or way that we've worked over the past sort of 12 years in Aberdeen, and beyond that when I worked in Edinburgh. But I'll pass you back now to Shona, who's pulled out her bag.
No, I'm putting my bag away. We've got some questions, Gary. Biff missed the names of the theorists, so can you repeat them? Aye.
That's what I just did, but surreptitiously. But now you've told everybody. Right,
no, sorry, folks. We have got your messages. Which is right. So you've mentioned them again. That's fine. And there's another question as well. I'm just going to say it up front, so the camera listening to them. More info and peer-to-peer support. Okay, a parent asked about it today. Well, we offer peer-to-peer support. But sometimes I do think you need to kind of build that relationship with the parents first, and then of course they bond as well in the group. Sometimes a lot of the parents we certainly have come along to our programmes don't know one another to start with, but there is certainly a peer-to-peer support there. Once they've, I suppose it's friendships as well, it's sociable. We like to have a cup of tea and a fine biscuit. I mean, don't laugh. It's not funny. It's not funny.
We used to have bacon rolls, is what I was laughing.
We have read. Well, there's been cuts. We can't have horse burgers. No, but food is vital, I think.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but I think it maybe is setting, maybe whether it's a drop-in or just a little taster session, get parents in, and I think they will, and if they can come along a wee programme, they tend to form peer-to-peer support
yeah.
without you having to do that, kind of like force it. It builds itself, I would say, Ruth. I think that's for Ruth.
Yeah, yeah, and I would just add to that, Ruth, is that I was trying to think of an example of where it's a little bit more than just people actually coming along and having a cup of tea and bacon roll, although as nice that is. But it came to my mind about an international story sack group that we had in Sunnybank School in Aberdeen, and it was about people who had signed up to do are we still going? We signed up to do a sewing with a college, and the college didn't have enough numbers, so we Family Learning kind of paid for the tutor to come along, and it turned out that we had people within the group themselves who had really good sewing machine skills, and that's kind of more of what we're saying. I mean, they actually made story sacks about. I mean, we had a range of people from different international from the world, and they made stories, which was good because then the school had story sacks with different stories in it. But the main thing was about the people, the parents themselves had, the tutor was there, but the parents themselves had skills in terms of they were allowed for the first hour to, the first hour they made the international story sack, that was our kind of sort of our demand, if you like. But the second hour they were able to do what they wanted, which is what they were going to do on the course, and it was like fixing curtains or making a dress or whatever. And the parents actually had very skillful in these things, and they were able to share their skills with the other parents. So it wasn't. It's about sort of. I mean, we talked about in Murray last week about intergenerational learning, and while some of them were younger and older, it was more to do with parents, and mainly women, I have to say, sharing skill sets that they'd learnt from their parents, from their grandparents. You know, I can sew this and knit that, and obviously I was a lot of use there. But I think in terms of talking about peer-to-peer support, that's how I would kind of think of it, as well as the social kind of element that Shona was saying. Because I was always jealous of Shona. She used to go outside, and she probably won't like this because she's given up now, but she used to go for a. I always used to think people were talking about things. I missed out on that. But that's where that dialogue sometimes took place, and then Shona would come back and say what it said. And they would say things about either the course or things that they wanted to focus on. And we would take that. That's the dialogue element that Jeffs and Smith are talking about, and it's around that informal discourse that goes on when you're having a cigarette, a cup of tea. It's one of the things that we found quite difficult when we were working in schools, for example, because the home teachers that would work with us, who would come and sit with us with the parents, and they would organise, that would be for an hour or two on a Wednesday morning in each school, and the home school teachers were full time when we first came up in 2000, and other teachers would sort of say, you know, what are you doing? You know, I've got a class all day, etc. But they couldn't see, and you're just sitting there having a cup of tea and a bacon roll or whatever, and talking about storytelling or whatever it might be. But it was hard to get that culture of the informal, the dialogue, the importance of building up a curriculum within all the groups that we work with. Even when we had the set programs that Shona will talk about in a wee minute in more detail, but those programs were built up of a lot of other programs that we'd been on training for, and based along the identified need through the dialogue that we were involved in.
I suppose I would also say, Gary, that we eventually managed to get some of the teachers to work with us in partnership. I think there was a wee fear of working with parents. They've been, I suppose, taught to teach kids, so these parents side, I think there was a real fear. Eventually, once you got them in and they met the group, there was a respect for the parents as well towards the teacher, and vice versa, and that broke down a lot of barriers, definitely. I mean, sort of following on from what Gary was saying, everything that we have designed now that we've got, and I've got my leaflet so I don't forget if I have to say it is, everything we do, like away days, which is for primary one starting school, it's a family happy event, and there's literacy in it, and it's basically fun. It's a fun day. We've also fun days. I'm working tomorrow. I'm doing a bubble workshop at Sartrosphere. There's 30 families coming, and they're from the schools that we work in. We also deliver positive parenting, like I was saying earlier on, when they were forced by the head teacher, e.g., getting a letter home saying, by the way, well, they were obviously very nice, but essentially what they were saying, the letters was, by the way, your kid's a nightmare, you need to get that kid fixed, and you probably need to fix yourself as well. Bad attitude, deficit model, and they voted with their feet. So Gary and I, okay, I did hear what they said outside smoking a cigarette. I have smoked. But they did actually, and they were very vocal outside, and they were very upset, I have to say. So we thought, no, we'll take all that issues back, and we will use a Welsh model. We'll listen to what they say, but everything in this leaflet that I'm sort of shouting out now, it didn't exist. They asked for it, and they got it. Eventually, obviously, with a lot of developments. It took a long time. What's it saying?
It's saying that it was death to smoke to be good
No,
family.
you do. Can I know? I don't smoke now, and I think I'm still as good a family learning worker as I used to be. I think.
I'm sure you are.
No, you don't need to smoke, but I think it is about forming. It is relationships and forming them, because the programs we run, they've got their lovely little books and they're writing them, and so it does look like a formal curriculum, but it's delivered informally. So I reckon if that explains zoning. Bubble workshop. Oh, somebody's asking.
Yeah, what is a bubble? I don't know what a bubble workshop is.
Well, we have a place down near the beach here in Aberdeen. It's called Satrosphere. You might use something like that in your own areas, I would say.
Dundee.
Sure, Dundee has got.
Yeah, Dundee's got one, yeah.
It's Dundee got.
Dundee's got Stratosphere, yeah.
Aye, that's right. Well, basically, they're doing bubble painting, right? Well, I'll be doing it as well, I hope. They'll get a nice snack, healthy snack when they arrive, and then the workers face Satrosphere, they mark the great big bubbles, and the kids going inside the bubbles, and it's great. So that's what a bubble workshop is. It's neos. If you remember at Squares, was it Nix's?
Yes.
Squares?
Yes.
If you remember that, folks, I would say, maybe I need to get other people to judge us, but me personally would say family learning in Aberdeen, I hope Gary agrees, kind of covers every corner of that. And there's work. And there's work in that corner, there's work in this corner, there's work in that corner, etc., etc. You're selling your fab pack, or can I get one? Oh, right, I'll let you stop speaking. I can't speak and read at the same time. Can I? I'm not good. I'm allowed to say work and I can't eat. What was I saying?
You were talking about the model, the Nixie's model, and I think we were talking in Murray last week about there are 4 kind of thing. But if you take intergenerational, there would be another box. What we're trying to do with the module is the work that you're doing is to try and, we're asking you to put your work into that model, if you like, and expand it or construct it or whatever. I mean, it's a very basic model, and that's what my PhD is about. It's about trying to theorize it in a little bit more, because I think if we can get more theory into this area of work and research, although I keep going on about that, and I will keep going on about it, I think then we'll be able to see the steps that we've made. I think it's hard to show what we've actually done, and I know that is now, in terms of mentioning policy at the very outset, and I know that Shona does at least sort of 3 or 4 HMI contacts every year, whether it's in community and development across the 3 areas of Aberdeen, or within the 8 or 9 schools that she's working on. She has to provide evidence and information for the schools who are ever more. I mean, I was in Dundee yesterday in the university, and I did an input into the the PDG students who are training it there, and HMI were there. And the woman was saying that the family learning, parents' involvement in the schools is becoming very much at the front and forward, and that's why there is a big demand for Shona in a way. And it shouldn't be that it's down to Shona on a team to do that. It should be that the school should be able to provide that and not sort of coming to everybody. And I think that's where we'd like to get to. But in terms of the model that Shona mentioned, the next one, if we could expand that, which is, as I say, about my CPD, we would be able to explain progress in a little bit more defined terms, because sometimes you don't always jump from one project to another, and others will go on. I mean, the work that myself and Shona did with the Challenge Dad initially, and then Calling Lemon after. I mean, and that you can look at that on I think it's on Education Scotland or Learning Connections website still, and that was a pathway that we did, but it was through. It's in. Oh, Jeannie's book, yeah, about the Challenge Dad work. I mean, that took a long time to get going. And myself and Shona must have applied. We said to £25, and it was £100, and all little funding pockets. And it took us about 2 years to get to that point where we actually got that money. That's how long it takes. And I think if we had a theoretical model that explained to people how we those steps, if you like, not every step, because it would be too long and it'd be massive. But if we could model it in a way that it was able, so that you went into speak to a head teacher, you were able to say, this is the progress I can make or I've made with this parent, and it isn't just about literacy in the curriculum, in their children's literacy and numeracy attainment. I think we would get a bit further, and I think that's what I'm kind of passionate, and Shona and Aileen and all of us that involved in the project here with the module, very passionate about, and I spoke to people in Murray, and I know they're passionate about it as well. So it was really good, and I think the models will help us, and I think the more that we get you involved in them and challenging them and criticising them and building your own ones, the sooner you'll all be writing books, and we'll be able to quote you on lectures like this.
Mm-hmm. And I'll believe in the job she's going to hear mine. No, it was really good. I think you've got a lot of good projects out there as well. Looking at the sort of slides and that you've put on. I will talk about the books very soon. We have got workbooks, we've got facilitator documents as well. It's just because we used to work with post-it notes, did we, Gary? Did we?
Sorry, Shona, I was reading.
Oh, you're reading, yeah. See, neither of the two of us can read and speak at the same time.
I'm a bloke.
But we did used to be, it just takes time, does it? Years and years. Keep plugging away. Keep going to meetings. Keep saying to them, do you realise how important this is? Also, what happened is we got a nice friend in the research team at Aberdeen City Council, Kevin. Hopefully he'll come on and speak to you at some point in a hangout. Kevin Stelfox is his name. And so we give him names of the parents and the kids, and he, it was a big piece of research, was it, Gary? Yeah. And it basically proved from 2005 to 2008, families that were involved with family learning in Aberdeen, for a primary one, I think it was PIPS results they used, there was a significant increase in mathematical ability and literacy. So literacy and numeracy practices for the kids, so their levels skill had risen. It looked a bit like that in a graph, but that was really significant. So I'm glad you tell us that. And I think that backed us up really. I really think that helped us get money for the Challenge Dad project. You just need to keep plugging away. There is some days I feel like tearing my hair out, banging my head against a brick wall. No, seriously. But when I work with the parents, like what you do, and you'll ken us yourself, or something you get, when you see them moving on, when you see them developing, and a way they're supporting their kids, always have done. They've always supported their kids. They were the first educators of their kids. I'm not against teachers, but they're not the only educators of our kids. Your family, your granny, your ma, your auntie, your cousins, you, the parents. And I think, I always emphasise this every time we've got a course. If there's parents coming along, I'm like, wait a minute here, you the best educators of your kids. I keep repeating it. And then usually they're quoted back to me when we're finished. I hope. I want to show you really briefly, it maybe would be a case of coming round and letting you see some of this, because I don't think you'll get a true feel the stuff that we do. But this is sort of an example of a facilitator's document. What we've got here is sort of session plans, just to keep you right, keeps you going. Sometimes you fall behind, you don't worry about it. You think on your feet, as you all do. reflection in action, I think it's called. So you've got this sort of guidelines for every course that we do. So we cover positive parenting, confidence building for the adults. This is adults only stuff, and we've got a creche provided. You need that sort of thing. It does cost us, but you need a creche so people can take part. We also cover maths and language for parents, which is showing parents how teachers teach their kids in school and emphasising how much wonderful stuff they do at home already. We do that jointly with teachers, and surprisingly enough, a lot of them are, surprisingly enough, they're very good at it. That sounds awful. No, but they're really enjoying it, delivering it as well. We also have a budgeting course. Now, I'll do it in English. Whose money is it anyway? Or, as we say up here, Fa's money is it only why? So, we get a credit union in. We've been working with them for 3 years now, and we've designed a 3-week course. The parents come along, they look at their spending. It's not about sharing all your personal spends. They have a money diary, and then they get a wee credit union voucher to open a savings account. We also have family story time. Just try to help parents, encourage them to read aloud to their kids, because it is quite I'm not a great reader aloud. I can't even read some of the messages you put on the side here. But so it just, and it's a bit of fun. It's family stuff. It's got to be with a family member. So that's all the fun stuff. And then there's also stuff for the adults as well. And I am got a garage. You got to speak. You've got to read your stuff, girls.
Okay, I'm just reading Biff's kind of a comment here about it'd be really good if we could have some long-term evaluation of the work. And I think when we started off this module, which was some time ago now, it's taken us a wee while to get to where we're at today. That was our idea. The team's idea was to sort of build up a bank of evidence, if you like. And you've already been doing that over this past week. I mean, I've been really encouraged by the participation of people's sort of handling of Google Plus, but also the quality of the comments that have been put on in terms of the provocative statements and people's arguments, etc. And that happened last week when I was up in Murray. I think Biff's right. If we could get some research about this and the things that we're doing as part of the activities that we'll be doing as part of the 15 credit module, but if will help and it will give you, I mean, you'll be able to take this stuff and use it as part of your work. Whether it be copying the stuff that Shona's talking about in terms of the practice that she does, or whether it's learning the theory and putting that into practice yourself and doing what you're doing, and also the joint work that you're doing over the next 3 or 4 months is going to provide you with evidence to be able to take. It's going to be electronic, you can print it off, you'll be able to use it in your schools, use it with your parents. And what I suggest is that people who do that and then go on to the 30 credit, and I would say this because obviously I'm encouraged or wanting to have people to do research, is that we can then start building up evidence about family learning. I mean, we've mentioned people who have talked about the social literacies approach to this, the people who have looked at everyday literacy practice and events, etc. But I think we need our own. And I know Aileen and myself and Anne and Shona, we're very keen for the research to actually be done by the practitioners. It's not about people in ivory towers like myself, myself and Aileen and Anne. Shona's not in an ivory tower.
I'm in a council house.
And she owns it, mine. But anyway, you've put me off my thought now.
Sorry.
But it's about that research. If we can build up a bank, and it is about being longitudinal, it isn't about so even beyond this module in the whether it be 15 credit or 30 credit, we require, I mean, CLD as a whole requires more research to be made and put out there for people to read and see and gain and be beneficial from and start to understand about the wealth model. I mean, I've been working in this area, so Shona and people who've worked in adult literacies have been involved in this as well. But it's still there in culture. It's still there with the people that we work with, the collaborative. And I think if we can build up research, build up these communities of practice that I mentioned last week in Murray, I think we'll be able to be stronger in ourselves, because we know we can just go on a hangout and speak to Shona and ask her what she did, and we're telling you all the things basically that worked in this sort of time that we've got here today, and it's all about the things that we did loads of things that didn't work. And I think that longevity of being sticking there, but we believed in what we believed in, and we carried on believing that the parents knew what they wanted and we would provide it, and that's where we've got to today. It takes a lot. Well, I've done, Shona, Aileen, we've done lots of inputs to people about what family learning is, what it should be, why it works, etc. Good practice. But if you're wanting to make your counsellor or whatever believe in it, you've actually got to convince them that it's right, and that's been a hard battle, and it's still going on, and we require more research. In terms of research with education or social work and other areas like medicine and law, we're miles behind, and I would encourage you to do research and write articles and reports, etc., even if you didn't do a module with Dundee or University or Aberdeen University. We need more, because that will strengthen our case.
I would also say as well, folks, that we are really high up on self-evaluation, evaluating with our peers or our partners. I'm sure the staff absolutely didn't like me most days we're doing our self-assessment, but I think you need to really interrogate your service. We've noticed a few things that it's not quite working right. We'll be changing a few things. We're always changing things fairly constantly. I suppose we are constantly, because parents will give us some feedback, when they're coming to a programme, and hey, it's a great idea, we're kind of putting it into the programme, and they quite like that idea that they have put something back in for other parents as well. But research, I would say, I have approached Kevin Stelfox again. Keep chasing him, he keeps running away from me, right enough.
Don't know why.
But we thought those dates I gave you earlier, the research it was done, it's nearly 4 to 8 years ago. It'd be really nice to see, because these kids will be up at secondary school now. God forbid it, they might be leaving school. Oh no, that's how old me and Gary are. But so it'd be really nice to see just what's happened to the families, because I still bump into, we didn't try to hang on to people. That's another thing. And we've got to think about where we're coming from here. Is this to please yourself, to have a full group, and to hang on to them so that you actually disable them even further because they can't move on? We are very much that's what you're getting, and that's all you've got to get. No, it is about encouraging them to get out there and see what else is out there in the world, and encourage them to take up other things, because we consistently are going back to start with the new primary ones and their families that are coming out of school. Folk are asking about the books and the workbooks. I'd really love just to come down if you can. If you can get up for a visit, come on, get them to sign your travel documents and say this is really worth it. Come up and see us up in Aberdeen. I'll show you our stuff. I've got so much in my bag that it's just not possible to show you. But all things taken an awful long time to develop. Hours and hours of work, hours and hours of listening to parents. I mean, this has been years, is it, Gary? It hasn't just appeared like this, and you need a bit of dedication to do that. I think Biff's right. I think you need rural research as well, Biff, absolutely. Folks, I have got some books. I can send you. We have got a website, actually. If you want to go and look on there, it might give you a wee bit more details. I did just throw away the books willy-nilly. Oh God, all protectionist. I think because there's a quality assurance element for me. We've had people that can deliver reasonably well, but there's other people that can deliver things just spot on, and are very inspiring. And so I think my role just now, I do deliver still, because I can't help it, because I love it. But my role coming up soon is really about quality assurance and assuring that asking parents what they think and getting opinions back. And we'll always do that at the end of every session or every course as well. So every week was for evaluation and every end of session. Also, what we do include, and I get questioned about this constantly because it obviously involves money. At the end of some of our main programs, which is I'm a Parent, Get Me Out of Here, which is a 6 to 7 week positive parenting program. You'll probably guess what TV program that come from. I think it's quite a comedy name. It sort of suggests that, well, we're all parents and we can all feel like that sometimes. Get yourself out of there, run off of your kids. Not that I'm suggesting you should do that, and there's also confidence and assertiveness. They're quite big emotional programs. Emma's just emailed us to say she's still got her confidence and assertiveness book because she did come on one of our courses to kind of co-facilitate. And she says she still looks back at some of the exercises in it, which I do myself, Emma, I have to say. I'm feeling a bit of doing. I say, well, wait a minute, and life's all right. You're quite good at that, and you're good at that. Keep your head on and keep, again, positive. But we took a parents away for a lovely, I'll make it say a treat. I'll say a celebration. Because treats ain't good, allegedly. We get a celebration, we get a lovely meal. And I'll tell you something, that's when you really get a feedback for the parents. We spend about £8 a head. We took them to Inver Snaky. I hope you all can fit that is a coffee doing at the beach. Everything's grilled, so it's very healthy, even the sausages. But that would be a time, as well as having a discussion with the parents, hopefully no horse, but we'll have a discussion. It's very informal, it's great. They're getting a cup of tea, they're fair tickled with themselves, they get their certificate, they give us their feedback. So there's lots of different ways you can do it, and I'm sure there's a lot of stuff out there that I would love to come and see some of your stuff and steal yours. Sorry, borrow. But I would say, folks, I wouldn't mind if you're interested in some of the resources. By all means, I'm happy to actually give some of it away. I would like you to come and visit us first, if that's all right, so I could really explain it and sort of face to face. Because I hate Google Plus. Sorry, I shouldn't have said that.
No, you shouldn't. No. I think that's right. I think the thing about research, Biff's asking about rural research, and Shona's talking. I'll go on about research till the cows come home. But Shona's talking about the program that I'm talking about research. It's about you actually doing it. The resources and the research can be done via this module. That's why Shona, myself, and Aileen and Anne involved in this, because we passionately believe in it, and we think that if Biff's talking about rural, let's have some rural research. Well, my message to Biff, and I only live down the road, is, come on, let's do it then. And if you want Shona's secrets, then talk about it on this module, even though it's on Google Plus.
Oh, got it.
But I mean, it's okay to come down. But that's where this module came from. Was that and Shona more lately, people were asking for these products that we were producing, if you like. But as I said in Murray last week, it's the process that's the most important, and that's why I put the question about the toolkit last week in the provocative statements, is because you can have the greatest toolkit in the world, if you don't have the right person or the right sort of theory and model behind it, then it's worse than useless in my view. So I think, despite Shona's kind of reticence to Google Plus, she's doing all right today, I think we should share our resources, which you're already doing, and do some more research, and that'll build us all up, and we'll all be stronger for it.
Right. And I will try and get leaflets, etc., to people, and you can maybe have a private hangout. It sounds a bit dodgy, does it?
I'm not going to that.
No, but I mean, I mainly do my hanging out at home. Oh, God!
Shona, I think we just call that a day now, before you go any further.
Yeah, listen, I'll be really pleased to see you. Just give me a phone. It's 01224 260028, and that's Family Learning in Aberdeen. So it's 01224 260028, and you're very welcome to come up and see us, and we'll slip you a few programmes in your bag before you go. Just didn't tell them up here.
I think there will be chances when we meet up in May for people to bring along things. I mean, hopefully we'll have a lot of it within Google Plus, and you'll have printed it off, etc. if you've needed it and tried it. I mean, I think Biff's got a point about the rural. I mean, we talked about this in Murray last week about the differences between families who live in rural areas and urban areas, and I think that you might be able to work something that works in Aberdeen. But if you take it to a rural area, it doesn't work. And I mean, that works. I mean, Shona will back me up with this. We've worked in one school in Aberdeen and taken it to another school in Aberdeen, and we've had totally different responses to the programme. So it's not as if you can just pick this thing up and go, but it's well worth trying it. And I think if we're all in the mind of looking at what we're doing and sharing, that's what we'll do. And that's what this module is all about. I would just like to point out that I keep going on about research, and I will, but it is only the 30 credit unit that, the second part of this module that looks at that. And I know not everybody's doing that, just to be clear. But even if you weren't doing the module, I still think you could get involved in research.
Absolutely.
And I think I'll be getting in touch with everybody around my PhD and asking people if they'd be willing to get involved as well. That's my plug.
Hi. Folks, I'm not sure if you would hear the same process as Aberdeen, but I do know that it's the research department of Aberdeen City Council. They're actually doing, is it scholarships? So you do the research. I'm not saying I'm signing up for it, but they are wanting more information and research done. It's just they haven't got enough staff to do it, so they're actually asking City Council anyway for scholarships. So I would imagine you'll do the research. Obviously you'll have research fellows, etc., that will help you because they know quite a lot about it, obviously. But it is another avenue, but I'm not sure that your sort of local authorities will have in place. But we did research a while ago, didn't we, Gary? And it's really worth doing, folks. It's really worth doing.
I mean, when me and Shona went down to sell the module, if you like, it was a couple of months ago, wasn't it, down in Glasgow, and I think it was parents as partners were doing a kind of a display of the work that they did to the group, and they were talking about how all the funders now are looking for statistic, quantitative data, if you like. That's how, I don't think she termed it like that, but that's what she was meaning. And it was about, she was working with Strathclyde University in order to produce this research for funding. I mean, it's funders are looking for it now. It's not just evaluation and whether the parents and what they're getting from it and so what are they getting. It's more about, is it making an impact? And the impact is a word, and okay, if you analyse that impact, it doesn't make a lot of sense. But with the way they're saying is how does it affect the parents' lives and the children's lives? And the more research will be better.
We know this stuff has an impact, folks. All the work you're doing, our Scotland, we know it has an impact. We need to prove us and get the money. The only project you're working on, we know it works. So let's get it's evidence they're needing an impact. I would also say as well, there is an approach you need to use when you're working with folk. I think kind of we've got to look down, or we've got to be, I suppose it's a power relation as well, right? Should they have the same values as a middle class family? If it's wrong with working class values or people that bide in an area of poverty, they've got some great values. My ma lived in poverty, so did me and my sister, obviously because we bed with my ma, but we were there. But there's still a learning there. We learnt some really good things. We learnt some good things, but we did learn, again, a work ethic. We learned, again, we can't be judging these families on our middle class values like Gary and that.
I I'd just like to point out that I'm from a working class background as well at this point. And I think we're getting to the point that we may as well. I don't know if anybody has any last questions. I think Aileen's been asking that. But it's. I think we're coming to the end, really, because we'll start repeating ourselves and we'll be showing our age. So we enjoyed doing this, I think.
We hope.
We hope, yeah. And hopefully it's kind of inspired you to carry on with the module and to start getting up there and thinking about sharing your work and trying things out and coming back and sharing it with the group as a whole. And then we know you've got sort of exercises to do before that.
Critical. Be critical.
Okay, so it's a good night from me.
And it's good night from him. Her.